to me, it's a true honor to share how I got to be where I am today and my continued evolution of who I am. So, as Annette put, I am to me a spiritual healer that has quite many different modalities under my toolbox. And then I was also referred to as, I would say, to use the analogy, a pristine Swiss Army knife that would best use to describe me. Use any number of tools under the toolbox to best meet the needs of the client. But all these gifts didn't come overnight. It was over years and years of working on myself, of studying, of using these modalities. It all kind of just came together and started to build himself to what I do now. But this all started my journey in childhood. I can remember as young as 4 years old. I remember the memory is very clear to me. My first fascination of past lives and time travel and parallel universes. I just knew they exist. I just knew it. It wasn't something that someone told me about or that I was indoctrinated with. I just knew the existence of it. And I remember actually telling my father as a 4-year-old that time travel is real. We got to tell the president. We got to start thinking about how we can go back in time and such. I remember my father at that time said, well, first you're going to have to build it. And that comment kind of stuck with me as far as, to me, not just build it, but to proceed through it, which I'll discuss later on this talk. And then as my childhood went, to me, I was always perceived as a happy child. I was always very innocent. I always spoke my mind. I didn't have much of a filter. I was just much into my own. But as I progressed through my childhood, as far as most kids, I did experience quite a few hurts in my childhood. Criticisms, people talking down to me, bullying, not feeling worthy about myself. And I do feel along the ages between 9 and 11 where this really persisted, starting to understand that I was different. That I was different than most of the kids and most of people in general, the way I thought. My brain was always very overactive. I was always constantly thinking and analyzing. Things came very quickly to me. And I didn't think twice because I always thought this was normal. I was just being me. I was just doing until people started judging me and realizing that this was something different. And then I was later diagnosed with ADD and then put on medication. And also, I guess, being perceived as a bad child, as a problem child, because I wouldn't follow the rules or because I would be perceived as arguing. And to me, I was just kind of voicing my thoughts and not understanding, I guess, the whole dynamic of authority and child, where a child listens and that's it. Like, I guess that was never really explained to me, so I never really did that. And to me, I guess the way maybe certain people communicated to me, I might have understood it, but I guess during this process, a lot of anger and resentment started to build up. It really started to build up, and it persisted through the teenage years, where now most kids are starting, between 13 and 16, starting to date and have their first relationships and their first kiss. And for me, I never had those things. I never was able to progress after childhood through those things. And even with that, the anger and the frustration started to build and build and build. And as I talk and look back on this, I think it was towards God. I think it was towards the universe. Like, why can't I not get ahead? I don't understand this. And even in school, like, I would work really hard and still not get the achievements that I was looking for. And I even remember back to middle school, there was an essay contest, and then the winner can get accepted on a trip to Florida with Disney World, which I was really excited about. And I was really determined to write the best essay ever. But the teachers had a different agenda. They want to push the quote-unquote smart kids to prop them up and not kind of give me a couple of winks, like, oh, just go on your regular studies. Don't worry about that essay. Which to me, now realizing as an empath, I can feel energy and feel people's intentions, which I didn't understand at the time, was very hurtful. I took it very personal, very to heart. it was many experiences like that where not feeling wanted, not feeling loved, not feeling supported. And it was building this anger and frustration and the sadness I kept persisting through teenage years and through my 20s. But during all this time, I was still very into spirituality. My mother, she had the parenting style. She didn't want to indoctrinate or influence me. She wanted to discover these things on my own. So I was still on my own interest, reading books about astrology. And then in my 20s, my mother, she bought me a Christmas present for a numerology reading from a numerologist in upstate Pennsylvania. And when I had this phone reading, it clicked. Everything just clicked. It was like the lightning bolts from God struck down upon me, where I just feel like this is something I just know. I don't know how to explain this. And I started reading quite a dozen books. And then a year later, and the dozen books just flew by. It's like something I just knew. And then when I had the year after the practitioner's course to become a certified numerologist, the information just flew straight to me. I kept asking questions after questions to the teacher, who was the one that also gave me the reading. And she is very impressed with myself. Like, she has over 45 years experience. She has read hundreds of books of numerology, and I can tell her hair is just sticking out of all the questions I was asking. I want to know the deeper meanings of this, which also so triggered within me the not feeling wanted and not feeling accepted into everything. So after the course, I did kind of push that off, and this was 2010, by the way, and I was still in college. And I like to call it, I was under the 12-year plan in school, the 12-year plan in college, where I was shifting through majors, dropping off. I would say I changed majors about 5 times, trying to figure out who I am and where I want to go, and try to be somebody in society, trying to be a productive person. And while through this, I'm still stuck at my high school job. So still feeling very, again, frustrated and very angry as far as not moving ahead in life. But then as the years went by, I finally, this past decade, finally had graduated college in 2015 in December, feeling proud of myself, thinking, okay, I got this degree. Now I can finally get a quote unquote real job and finally be that person I want, that society can accept. Get the income, get the house, get the wife, the 2.5 kids and the dog and the picket fence, and finally be somebody, and moved out of my mother's house and move on from my high school job. But unfortunately, there was a fall that had to persist. There was a fall that I took after applying for hundreds of jobs and having first interviews in 2016 and second interviews, and feeling so close to finally getting something, especially that second interview where you really feel like you're connecting with the interviewer, just doesn't go my way. And it just creates so much more anger. The anger from childhood really started erupting during that year, which I actually, during the same time, had a major eye accident at ShopRite where glass hit my eye, and I had a major retinal detachment and major surgery, which was a year-long recovery. But during this year-long recovery, I was almost put in a timeout to really reflect upon things, to really reflect where I want to go in life. It kind of redirected everything as far as my purpose. And I would say the beginning of 2017, my mother, who I mentioned before, had never really influenced me, and she had nonchalantly made a comment that said I'm not focused enough at what I'm good at. And what she was implying, what I thought at the time was my numerology, because that's all I did. Now that I can look back on that, it wasn't just the numerology. She knew I had spiritual gifts. She just wanted to sit back and just have me develop them on my own and be able to respect my own personal journey. So when she said that comment, I was, okay, I'm going to focus on building my numerology practice up now. I'm going to make a Facebook business page. I'm going to really get myself out there. And I feel like things started coming along the year after in 2018, where I started getting paid clients. I started doing events in my local area in southern New Jersey. I started a network with other practitioners, be able to move myself within that. But then, I don't know, I just feel like something was still missing. Something still wasn't moving forward the way I wanted to be. So in 2019, with a friend, I took my first Reiki class. I took a Reiki 1 class. And right after class, I would say 2 months after, when I was practicing on family and friends, I'm realizing I'm doing a lot more than just Reiki. I'm connecting with the client's energy. I'm using intuition to pick up on things. I'm channeling to their higher self to receive messages. Sometimes I'll see past loved ones around them and get messages for them. And sometimes even deeper, because we all have spiritual deities that we do connect with spiritually. I was connecting with their deities. I was really going very deep and starting to see past lives, and really things were coming together when I was connecting with the energy work. I was almost surprised. I almost didn't believe it myself. I was like, it's not a big deal, because it just came naturally, not realizing not everyone can do this. So as the feedback I was getting from people, it did provide a sense of acceptance. Like, you know what? Maybe this is something I can do. So then I pursued at the end of 2019 my Reiki 2 certification. And then I also became a Reiki master in the summer of 2020. But still, things didn't seem to move along. I'm still trying to figure out who I am, what my identity is. I got the numerology. I sometimes do angel and oracle cards. I got the Reiki, but what do I do? What do I do with these? Like, who am I? So then I would say, from the major eye accident I had at work, as I referred to earlier, there was a closing settlement in 2021 that released me from the case that I got some money from. So I used that money to invest in many more different energy healing modalities. Something was just calling me for a deeper purpose. I knew there was more than just Reiki. I knew there was more out there. Because that's kind of how my brain thinks. Like, I'm not really simple. I really go to the core at things. I really go to the deeper aspect of a situation. So that I started to get attuned to and learn the many different modalities from the summer of 2021 into the winter of 2022. And as Annette explained earlier, these are being a shamanic practitioner. There's also include via flame energy healing. Also, another modality I did was the Dolphins of Atlantis healing. And then the past life healing, to me, was one of the impactful ones, because it really started to open up the past life venue. It really started to get memories from when I had at 4 years old. Like, I knew everything was starting to connect. Why was I such passionate of past lives and parallel universes at a young age? As I started to study past life healing, it really connected everything. And it really honed in on the idea that the past, present, and future is happening at once. It's all connected to once. So we have a past life energy field that we're literally storing the unprocessed trauma from all of our lives. So we are it. And once I saw that, again, the lightning bolts, just like from the numerology, started striking me again. I'm like, this makes too much sense. Like, I never understood that concept, but once I saw it in plain view, it makes total logical sense, that we are it, we are one. And then once I got that, everything from the past year started to come together. Month by month, everything slowly started to mesh as far as all these different tools I had, instead of being a separate entity, started to mesh to become one, using different aspects and techniques from each one to every single specific client for their specific need. But I feel like the goal is to reach the root cause of someone's suffering, the root cause of someone's blockages and their pain, and why they can't move forward. Like, I felt like I've suffered most of my life. So I feel like part of my journey is not only just to heal myself, and to realizing that once I use these to come to transmute the anger, the frustration, the sadness into acceptance, into love, and to release the negativity, I feel like not only does it bring me joy, it brings me so much joy seeing others work on themselves, because it reminds me of me. It's like looking into a mirror, and it reminds us that we are all one. So that, to me, I feel like I'm still growing. I'm still learning who I am. I recently taught my first Reiki class, and that again brought me so much joy last week to see the students. It reminded me of me, of my beginning, my journey, and they got frustrated sometimes of learning how to use certain techniques, but I know they're just picking it up, and as the weeks are going by for them, they're really getting it, and it just brings me joy to see their progression. So to me, it just brings so much joy to the heart. So I want to thank you guys for listening to this and listening to where I came from. And hopefully this can inspire others to just not give up on life, that when things get down, there's a root cause to the suffering. And when we get attuned to that, we can help us move forward. So right now, I'm going to prepare for the group energy healing. So I ask those at home if you want to get comfortable, if you want to lay down and just to relax, if you want to ground yourself for a minute, I'm just going to take some time for allow that to happen. And I'm going to set my timer too, because when I'm in that state, I tend to forget that time even exists. Okay, so we're all ready. So I'm just going to ask everyone to relax. I'm going to get into a prayer stance, and then I'll begin after that. As we conclude this energy healing, you may want to start wiggling your fingers and wiggling your toes. And there's no rush, but when you're ready, you can sit up. Okay, so now for the next few minutes, I'm just going to take some Q&As, any questions that you guys may have as far as my journey and my speech is concerned. I'm ready to take.